Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to day 16. We got 3 days left today, Thursday, or Wednesday, and Thursday. Maybe Wednesday, depends on how much I try to torch you. I might get the last chapter in all on Wednesday. We'll see. Being the last chapter. I'm going to finish chapter 11 today. That's all I'm going to do. Today should be a nice, easy, quick day for us. So remember, we left off on Ralph and them. We left off on Ralph and them going, or Ralph and Piggy and Sam and Eric heading over to Castle Rock to confront Jack and his clan about coming over and stealing Piggy's glasses, right? So that's where we left off at. And we were on page 173. And Ralph was kind of building him up like, Jack, you're chief, you got to handle this. Jack, you're the chief, you're still chief, is what Piggy keeps saying. Sam and Eric were kind of talking about sneaking up on him, putting some paint on, and Jack kind of wants to do it in a classy way and take care of business. So we were on middle of page 173. So here we go. They set off along the beach in formation. Ralph went first, limping a little, his spear carried over one shoulder. He saw things partially through the tremble of the heat haze over the flashing sands, and his own long hair and injuries. Behind him came the twins, worried now for a while, but full of unquenchable vitality. They said little, but trailed the butts of their wooden spears, for Piggy had found that, by looking down and shielding his tired sight from the sun, he could just see these moving along the sand. He walked between the trailing butts. Therefore, the conch held carefully between his two hands. The boys made a compact little group that moved over the beach, floor plate-like shadows dancing and mingling beneath them. There was no sign left of the storm, and the beach was swept clean like a blade that had been scoured. The sky and the mountains were at an immense distance, skimmering in the heat, and the reef was lifted by mirage, floating in a kind of silver pool halfway up the sky. They passed the place where the tribe had danced. The charred sticks still lay on the rocks where the rain had quenched them, but the sand by the water was smooth again. They passed in silence. No one doubted that the tribe would be found at Castle Rock. When they came in sight of it, they stopped with one accord. The densest tangle on the island, a mass of twisted stems, black and green and impenetrable, lay on their left, and tall grass swayed before them. Now Ralph went forward. Ella, please. Here was the crushed grass where they all had laid when he had gone to prospect. There was the neck of the land, the ledge skirting the rock. Up there were the red pinnacles. Sam touched his arm. Smoke. There was a tiny smudge of smoke wavering into the air on the other side of the rock. Some fire, I don't think. Ralph turned. What are we hiding for? He stepped through the screen of the grass onto his little open space that led to the narrow neck. You two follow behind. I'll go first, then Piggy a pace behind me. Keep your spears ready. Piggy peered anxiously into the luminous veil that hung between him and the world. Is it safe? Ain't there a cliff? I can hear the sea. You keep right close to me. Ralph moved forward on the neck. He kicked a stone and it bounded into water. Then the sea sucked down, revealing a red, weedy square 40 feet beneath Ralph's left arm. Am I safe? Quavered Piggy. I feel awful. High above them, from the pinnacles, came a sudden shout and then an imitation war cry that was answered by a dozen voices from behind the rock. Give me the conch and stay still. Halt! Who goes there? Ralph bent back his head and glimpsed Roger's dark face at the top. You can see who I am, he shouted. Stop being silly. He put the conch to his lips and began to blow. Savages appeared, painted out of recognition, edging round the ledge toward the neck. They carried spears and disposed themselves to defend the entrance. Ralph went on blowing and ignored Piggy's terrors. Roger was shouting, "You mind out, see?" At length, Ralph took his lips away and paused to get his breath back. His words were a gasp, but audible, calling an assembly. The savages guarding the neck muttered among themselves, but made no motion. Ralph walked forwards a couple of steps. A voice whispered urgently behind him. "Don't leave me, Ralph." "You kneel down," said Ralph sideways, "and wait till I come back." He stood halfway along the neck and gazed at the savages intently. Freed by the paint, they had tied their hair back and were more comfortable than he was. Ralph made a resolution to tie his own back afterwards. Indeed, he felt like telling them to wait and doing it there and then, but that was impossible. The savages sniggered a bit, and one gestured at Ralph with his spear, high above. Roger took his hands off the lever and leaned out to see what was going on. The boys on the neck stood in a pool of their own shadow, diminished to shaggy heads. Piggy crouched, his back shapeless as a sack. "I'm calling an assembly." Silence. Roger took a small stone and flung it between the twins, aiming to miss. They started, and Sam only just kept his footing. Some source of power began to pulse in Roger's body. Ralph spoke again loudly. "I'm calling an assembly." He ran his eye over them. "Where's Jack?" The group of boys stirred and consulted. A painted face spoke with the voice of Robert. "He's hunting, and he said we weren't to let you in." "I've come to see about the fire," said Ralph, "and about Piggy Specs." The group in front of him shifted, and laughter shivered outwards from among them. Light, excited laughter that went echoing among the tall rocks. A voice spoke from behind Ralph. "What do you want?" The twins made a bolt past Ralph and got between him and the entry. He turned quickly. Jack, identifiable by personality and red hair, was advancing from the forest. A hunter crouched on either side. All three were masked in black and green. Behind them on the grass, the headless and paunched body of a sow lay where they had dropped it. Piggy wailed, "Ralph, don't leave me." With ludicrous care, he embraced the rock, pressing himself to it above the sucking sea. The sniggering of the savages became a loud, derisive jeer. Jack shouted above the noise, "You go away, Ralph. You keep to your end. This is my end and my tribe. You leave me alone." The jeering died away. "You pinched Piggy's specs," said Ralph breathlessly. "You've got to give 'em back." "Got to? Who says?" Ralph's temper blazed out. "I say. You voted for me for chief. Didn't you hear the comp? You played a dirty trick. We have given you the fire you'd ask for if you'd asked for it." The blood was flowing in his cheeks, and the bunged up eye throbbed. "You could have had fire whenever you wanted, but you didn't. You came sneaking up like a thief and stole Piggy's glasses." "Say that again." "Thief, thief," Piggy screamed. "Ralph, mind me." Jack made a rush and stabbed at Ralph's chest with his spear. Ralph sensed the position of the weapon from the glimpse he caught of Jack's arm and put the thrust aside with his own butt. Then he brought the end round and caught Jack a stinger across the ear. They were chest to chest, breathing fiercely, pushing and glaring. "Who's the thief?" "You are." Jack wrenched free and swung at Ralph with his spear. By common consent, they were using the spears as sabers now, no longer daring the lethal points. The blow struck Ralph's spear and slid down, to fall agonizingly on his fingers. Then they were apart once more, their positions reversed, Jack toward the castle rock and Ralph on the outside toward the island. Both boys were breathing very heavily. "Come on, then, come on." Truculently, they squared up to each other, but kept just out of fighting distance. "You come on and see what you get. You come on. Piggy, clutching the ground, was trying to attract Ralph's attention. Ralph moved, bent down, kept a wary eye on Jack. Ralph, remember what we came for. The fire. My specs. Ralph nodded. He relaxed his fighting muscles, stood easily, and grounded the butt of his spear. Jack watched him inscrutably through his paint. Ralph glanced up at the pinnacles, then toward the group of savages. Listen, we've come to say this. First time you've got to give back Piggy's specs. If he hasn't got them, he can't see. You aren't playing the game. The tribe of painted savages giggled, and Ralph's mind faltered. He pushed his hair up and gazed at the green and black mask before him, trying to remember what Jack looked like. Piggy whispered, "And the fire. Oh, yes. Then about the fire. I say this again. I've been saying it ever since we dropped in." He held out his spear and pointed at the savages. "Your only hope is keeping a signal fire going as long as there's light to see. Then maybe a ship will notice the smoke and come and rescue us and take us home. But without that smoke, we've got to wait till some ship comes, by accident. We might wait years, till we're old." The shivering, silvery, unreal laughter of the savages sprayed out and echoed away. A gust of rage shook Ralph. His voice cracked. "Don't you understand, you painted fools? Sam, Eric, Piggy, and me, we aren't enough. We tried to keep the fire going, but we couldn't. And then you, playing at hunting." He pointed past them to where the trickle of smoke dispersed in the pearly air. "Look at that. Call that a signal fire. That's a cooking fire. Now you'll eat, and there'll be no smoke. Don't you understand? There may be a ship out there." He paused, defeated by the silence and painted anonymity of the group guarding the entry. Jack opened a pink mouth and addressed Sam and Eric, who were between him and his tribe. "You two, get back." No one answered him. The twins, puzzled, looked at each other, while Piggy, reassured by the cessation of violence, stood up carefully. Jack glanced back at Ralph and then at the twins. "Grab them." No one moved. Jack shouted angrily, "I said grab them." The painted group moved around Sam and Eric nervously and unhandedly. Once more the silvery laughter scattered. Sam and Eric protested out of the heart of civilization. "Oh, I say, honestly, their spears were taken from them. Tie them up," Ralph cried out hopelessly against the black and green mask. "Jack, go on, tie them." Ella, quiet please. Now the painted group felt the otherness of Sam and Eric, felt the power in their own hands. They felled the twins clumsily and excitedly. Jack was inspired. He knew that Ralph wouldn't attempt a rescue. He struck in a hunting circle behind him, and Ralph... Ella, stop please. Hey, stop please. He struck in a humming circle behind him, and Ralph only just parried the blow. Beyond them, the tribe and the twins were loud and writhing heap. Piggy crouched again. Then the twins lay astonished, and the tribe stood round them. Jack turned to Ralph and spoke between his teeth. "See, they do what I want." There was a silence again. The twins lay, inexpertly tied up, and the tribe watched Ralph to see what he would do. He numbered them through his fringe, glimpsed the ineffectual smoke. His temper broke, and he screamed at Jack. "You're a beast and a swine and a bloody, bloody thief!" He charged. Jack, knowing this was the crisis, charged too. They met with a jolt and bounced apart. Jack swung with his fist at Ralph and caught him on the ear. Ralph hit Jack in the stomach and made him grunt. Then they were facing each other, painting and furious, but unnerved by each other's ferocity. They became aware of the noise that was the background to this fight, the steady, shrill cheering of the tribe behind them. Piggy's voice penetrated to Ralph. "Let me speak." He was standing in the dust of the fight, and as the tribe saw his intention, the shrill cheer changed to a steady booing. Piggy held up the conch, and the booing sagged a little. then came up again to strength. "I got the conch," he shouted. "I tell you, I got the conch." Surprisingly, there was silence now. The tribe were curious to hear what amusing thing he might have to say. Silence and pause. But in the silence, a curious air noise close by Ralph's head. He gave it half his attention, and then there it was again, a faint zoop. Someone was throwing stones. Roger was dropping them. His one hand still on the lever. Below him, Ralph was shocked of the hair and Piggy a bag of fat. Stop, please. I got this to say. You're acting like a crowd of kids. The booing rose again and died as Piggy lifted the white magic shell. Which is better, to be a pack of painted Indians like you are, or to be sensible like Ralph is? A great clamor rose among the savages. Piggy shouted again. Which is better, to have rules and agree, or to hunt and kill? Again, the clamor, and again. Zoop! Ralph shouted against the noise. Which is better, law and rescue, or hunting and breaking things up? Now Jack was yelling too, and Ralph could no longer make himself heard. Jack had backed right against the tribe, and they were a solid mass of menace that bristled with spears. The intention of a charge was forming among them. They were working up to it, and the neck would be swept clear. Ralph stood facing them, a little to one side, his spear ready. By him stood Piggy, still holding out the talisman, the fragile, shining beauty of the shell. The storm of the sound beat at them, an incantation of hatred. High overhead, Roger, with a sense of deliriousness, abandonment, leaned all his weight on the lever. Ralph heard the great rock before he saw it. He was aware of a jolt in the earth that came to him through the soles of his feet, and breaking sound of stones at the top of the cliff. Then the monstrous red thing bounded across the neck, and he flung himself flat while the tribe shrieked. The rock struck Piggy, a glancing blow from chin to knee. The conch exploded into 1,000 white fragments and ceased to exist. Piggy, saying nothing, with no time for even a grunt, traveled through the air sideways from the rock, turning over as he went. The rock bounded twice and was lost in the forest. Piggy fell 40 feet and landed on his back across a square red rock in the sea. His head opened and stuff came out and turned red. Piggy's arms and legs twitched a bit, like a pig's after it had been killed. Then the sea breathed again in a long, slow sigh. The water boiled white and pink over the rock. And when it went suckling back again, the body of Piggy was gone. This time the silence was complete. Ralph's lips formed a word, but no sound came. Quiet, please. Suddenly, Jack bounded out from the tribe and began screaming wildly. That was disgusting. Chew your food right. See? That's what you'll get. I meant that. There isn't a tribe for you anymore. The conch is gone. He ran forward, stooping. I'm chief. Viciously, with full intention, he hurled his spear at Ralph. The point tore the skin and flesh over Ralph's ribs, then sheared off and fell in the water. Ralph stumbled, feeling not pain but panic, and the tribe, screaming now like the chief, began to advance. Another spear, a bent one that would not fly straight, went past his face, and one fell from on high where Roger was. The twins lay hidden behind the tribe, and the anonymous devils' faces swarmed across the neck. Ralph turned and ran. A great noise as the sea of gulls rose behind him. He obeyed an instinct that he did not know he possessed and swerved over the open space so that the spears went wide. Stop. Go away. He obeyed an instinct that he did not know he possessed and swerved over the open space so that the spears went wide. He saw the headless body of the Sioux and jumped in time. Then he was crashing through the foliage and small boughs and was hidden by the forest. The chief stopped by the pig, turned and held up his hands. Back to the fort. Presently the tribe returned noisily to the neck where Roger joined them. The chief spoke to him angrily. Why aren't you on watch? Roger looked at him gravely. I just came down. The hangman's horde clung around him. The chief said no more to him, but looked down at Sam and Eric. You got to join the tribe. You let me go. And me. The chief snatched one of the few spears that were left and poked Sam in the ribs. What do you mean by it, eh? Said the chief fiercely. What do you mean by coming with spears? What do you mean by not joining my tribe? The prodding became rhythmic. Sam yelled, That's not the way. Roger edged past the chief, only just avoiding pushing him with his shoulder. The yelling ceased, and Sam and Eric lay looking up in a quiet terror. Roger advanced upon them as one wielding a nameless authority. All right, and that finishes chapter 11. We got chapter 12 left. That is it. So poor Piggy has now passed away. So at the carelessness of Jack and his tribe, we have now lost 2 people because, I'll just say it because he's an idiot. So with that being said, happy Tuesday. I am finished for the day. We have 1 chapter left. Probably break it into 2 days for Wednesday and Thursday. That will be day 17 and 18. And then Friday's day 19. I'll check on you guys. And day 20 next Monday. I will be by to collect everything. That being said, I hope you had a great weekend. And happy Monday, or happy Tuesday. And we'll see you later.